What is up? So recently I've had several people ask me to make more car videos. Well, of course I only make the videos as I have opportunity. What it is for is my wife's grandparents. Their grandfather is becoming senile and kind of psychotic. And he can't even hold his head up right, but he's like pig-headed and wants to drive the car. You know, he's trying to take the keys from the grandmother and just doing crazy stuff, and she's just worried he's going to get in the car. The other car is ruined, so they just got this used car recently. I'm worried that he's going to take off in it. He's like 80-something years old, so I'm installing a kill switch. And so right here, I just got this momentary button installed right here. This isn't as much meant to be hidden from the casual car thief as this is, just to stop the grandfather from taking off in the car. With this here, this button down here, which she's going to have to push with her hand, is that it's going to not prevent the car from starting. So she'll be able to start it, leave the key in the car, turn on the air, and like leave the grandpa in his passenger seat, momentarily to get out or something. And if he gets any weird, crazy idea about getting in the driver's seat, he ain't gonna be able to put this thing in gear and take off with it. In fact, most people probably wouldn't be able to figure this thing out because the engine's gonna be running. They're not gonna be able to put it in gear. So this momentary switch I'm installing, I'm getting ready to solder the wires down in here, is I found the circuit for the solenoid. So when you put the key on, push your brake pedal down while the key is on, it puts 12 volts to a solenoid, which lets this release latch. I'm just interrupting that. That way, when he gets in here, has it running, puts his foot down, it still ain't going to come out of gear. It's going to be locked. So you're going to have to have it running. Push your finger on this switch over here at the same before, and hold it while you're pulling this one, and then it'll pull out of gear. And then you won't have to hold the button anymore. It'll be already in gear. And then each time she puts this thing in park, that button's going to have to be depressed to get this thing out of park. Soldered shrink tube. That ain't going nowhere. So let's try it out. Well, just had a little setback during testing. This thing was like intermittently working. Turns out that this brand new switch from Lowe's, it says 3 amps. 3 amps. It worked intermittently and then mostly didn't work. So I just pulled that out, cut it out, found a switch that I had. It's got a metal body, so I'm hoping that it lasts. Plus it's a little more flush, so look a little better. Okay, I have the car back together. There's that button. So hopefully old Gramps won't see that. I'm gonna have to get her in the habit of just reaching down and pushing that when she pulls that out. So basically, turn the key on. Normally you just push the brake. This releases, but it's not. So you gotta push this button, and then it will. Kind of need 3 hands to show you how that's working. But see, that's locked. So if you push the button first, I use my foot, then it's gonna come out. So cool thing about it is she won't need to reset the operation by remembering to turn the kill switch, quote unquote, on again. It's gonna be automatic. So anytime she puts it in park, it's not gonna come out of park till you push that button at the same time as you push that brake pedal. Foolproof. Here's the ultimate test. All right, go move it. Try it. I know, put it drive. Do you think your grandpa's gonna be able to do it? Push the button and the brake, hold them both at the same time. Hope your 7-year-old grandma could do that.
My grandma's gonna kill you.
Hey, doesn't want your grandpa to steal it. That's what you have to do. Okay, what is up, guys? This is a little afterthought to the project I just completed. That is, after I witnessed the wife struggle a few times to coordinate herself between pushing the button,
then pushing the brake pedal, then pulling the gear selector out of park. I'm kind of worried about the 70-something-year-old grandmother doing that on a regular basis. So I'm going to leave it like that and then probably have the car dropped back off, maybe over the weekend or something. I have 2 ideas to improve that. Here's the first idea. Using a double pole relay here. This is going to be real crude. Here's the coil. And you're going to have a double pole. Normally open contacts. Alright, and so the one pole is always going to go to the gear selector. So once the coil energizes, it closes the contacts, it will complete the path, and you can pull the gear selector out. And then this other one is going to be a latch. So I'm going to put 12 volts up here, tied right into here. And then you're going to have that little momentary push button switch right here. I don't know how early, you know, I'm just going to call it a switch. I'm not using the right symbol, but it shows like a spring or something on there. You know, it's a momentary push button switch. So it's going to tap off at 12 volts. And then the other leg here is going to go up to the coil. And then at one end of the coil will simply be grounded. So when you push this, 12 volts is applied to the coil, and it's going to pull in the 2 poles. The one's going to close for the gear selector switch, and then this other one will simply just go back to here, tie in. So once this coil pulls in, this is going to close this circuit, which is going to put 12 volts here. So you let go of the button, guess what? It's a latch circuit. So you push the button, it's latched. This is not going to be 12 volts continuous, but 12 volts ignition, you know, when you turn the key to on. So that way when you turn it back off and turn it back to on, the contacts will be open again. They'll start the vehicle, and it won't be able to, it'll defeat the gear selector, and then until you push the button again, which latches the circuit, and then it'll stay latched, and then she can just work the brake pedal and the gear selector. But the other better idea, since again we don't want Grandpa stealing the car, and he's getting kind of crazy and senile and angry basically and mean, so I want this fully automatic. So when she like pulls up someplace and like say you're gonna leave the car running, like to run into Walgreens or do something that she's gonna do, she can leave it on there in the hot summer here. The AC's on, you know, and he won't be able to just hop in the other seat and drive the car. So here's another alternative circuit that I think will work even better. Let's see if I can do this on the fly here. I have not drawn any of these up yet. So there's the same thing. You got the 2 poles. Again, this one's is still going to go to the gear selector. When that coil is closed, it's going to complete the path for the 12 volts to go disengage the gear selector lock when you push the brake. Okay, so this time I'm going to do 12 volts right here from the ignition. And then you're going to have this little momentarily button switch thing, whatever the diagram should be. So let's see, we're going to go to 12 volts on that. And then what I'm going to do here, through a resistor, and then we're going to go into an NPN. Transistor. Come out here. So what I'm going to do is this is going to go to this bottom of the coil, and this is going to be ground. And then the other thing to do here is to put a nice big fat capacitor right here, like 100 microfarads or something. Yeah, right there. And actually, in this case, we can use a single pole relay because we're not going to do a latch. So basically, you turn the ignition on, 12 volts is applied here. This is going to be open, so relative to the ground, this will be 12 volts also, zero current flow. This is going to be open. When you push the switch, you're going to put 12 volts right here through the current limiting resistor to bias the NPN transistor, which is going to conduct, and basically it sources the bottom of the coil to ground. Boom, current will flow. And at the same time as you're putting 12 volts to this, you're putting 12 volts to the capacitor. The capacitor here is going to charge up like a battery. And then when you let off the switch, the transistor is not going to immediately lose bias. It's going to flow current through this circuit right here until this capacitor drains down. So with this design, and this is what I'd like to do, although it's going to add a little bit of, components to it, which I got to make sure it doesn't break, but basically what will happen is she'll just have to like start it up. She'll probably go to put it in gear, oops, the kill switch. Without having to work the brake pedal and the gear selector, she'll just reach over and hit that button. And unless she pushes the button for a second or so, it's going to charge this capacitor up. It's going to be closing the transistor from biasing it. And then she can let go of the button and then work the brake pedal and gear selector like normal without holding the button down. And then after so many seconds, then you could figure out the current flow here, and then the resistor, capacitor, and how long it's going to take to discharge to get a rough approximation, of what the delay would be. And basically, it's going to be a delay circuit. So when you push it, charges the capacitor, it's going to take a couple seconds for this capacitor to discharge. So it could be, if you design it a certain way, it could be 20 seconds pretty easily, which is fine. That'll be so she can work the selector, and then by the time she gets done driving the car, pulls up someplace and puts it in park again, this capacitor here will be discharged. The transistor will already have released the relay, and it'll be back in anti-theft mode again. So this is the kind of circuits that I would prefer to do. So it looks like there might be a part 2 to this coming up in the near future.